could send it because it makes a person feel good on Yom Tov. And he'll find some way to use it. And we'll see that you could even use unfinished fabric. We'll see how.
Why not? You could cover yourself with
You could yes.
Sit on it.
So we'll see that.
Exactly, yeah.
Not only that, we'll see that Mishnah is going to say that you're allowed to send clothing with kalayim, with shatnez. Now, shatnez, we know, is shatnez is mixture of wool and linen and flax, two prohibited sources of fiber. You know that wool is animal derived. It's sheared from animal called lamb, and linen comes from flax. It's also a plant, just like cotton, and it's under the microscope. Those who check the fabrics, the suits for shatnez, you see that the thread, the actual fiber, is very different. The wool is straight line here, and the flax is straight, and wool has like branches. It has things coming out from it. So they look on the microscope, and when they see these two types of fibers, they have a weight through the experience. They're looking at many different samples for years, and they're able to detect if there is shatnez.
What about cashmere and linen?
Also, cashmere is wool. Cashmere is wool.
So how did they check shatnez before the
Can you have
technology?
That's a good question. Yeah, I guess they were able to tell with a naked eye also.
Probably the quality they could tell how it's made out of.
It's not just quality. You need to know exact material.
Can you have one part of the suit?
It could be very good quality, but what is the material?
But they didn't have material more mixed than nowadays. They have more mixed than before, maybe.
Then, also true.
They used to make pockets out of linen and the fabric out of wool.
Can you make one part? Can you make one part of the jacket, let's say, from linen and one part from wool?
No.
Not mixed, but one part is from.
Like the lining is one thing. The shell is another material.
If they're attached through any type of attachment thread, no.
Meaning they have to
Hugo
be.
Boss suits are like that. The
No, but they have
inside
to be
of
attached.
this is linen and it's
Right.
wool, the actual suit. You're not allowed to wear them.
So there's
The
two
buttons
types.
are tied up with like linen.
There's two types of shatnez. One is if you mix the fibers, because how does our material, how does the fabric
It's woven.
made? You make strings,
Thread.
and then there is a special machine that weaves the thread into one sheet, one continuous solid sheet.
Right.
So you could have shatnez combined on wool and flax combined on three levels, either in the fabric itself. Before you make small little, before you make thread, you have just a pile of fiber. How do you make? You have a pile of fiber? It's called weaving. Is not. It's called spinning. Spinning, right?
Spinning.
You twist it, and then you have a small little klubok, and you twist it. You make it into a thread, and as it's turning, you are turning the thread around and around and around and around. So you're turning a pile of fiber into a thread. After that, you're turning the thread into sheet, into a fabric. After that, you turn fabric into the actual garment. So if you mixed in wool and flax in the actual pile of fiber, it's no good. If you mixed the threads when you weave, one thread, wool, one thread, flax, one thread, wool, one thread, it's also no good. And even if you already have even if you already have material, fabrics, and you sew a suit with different parts and you combine them together, also not good. Also shatnez.
But two different articles, let's say your pants and jacket, let's say your pants are wool and your jacket's linen, that's not a problem, right?
No, there's not a problem. There is an interesting pshat called bitul, annulment of something. We know that if a little bit of milk falls into a lot of meat,
160.
160 it's kosher, right?
Bitul b'shisha.
Same thing the other way, bitul b'shisha. When it comes to shatnez, we don't say that. We don't say that it's bitul. Well, for example, let's say I have a thread, small one thread, or a little bit of fiber, of wool and a lot of flax. Why don't we say it's bitul?
It doesn't mix, it stays, that part stays there.
Because it does not get nullified, right? It does not get effaced. It does not get dissolved,
Like
diluted,
chametz
dissolved.
also, no? Chametz also.
Chametz does get dissolved and diluted, but Chachomim made a isur, it's midrabanan, that it should stay there. It's as if there in order to make a chumrah of Pesach. In order to be machmer on Pesach. Why? Because bread everyone is used to eating all year round. In order to really separate us from bread, they did this chumrah. Okay. So Gemara says like this. Our Mishnah. Mishalchin kelim, we allowed to send garments, ben tfurim, ben shenan tfurim, whether they are sewn, whether they're not sewn. So this is ben Hillel Shita, that one is allowed to send even non-sewn garments. Va'afal pi sheyesh bahen kilayim. And even if there is kilayim. Kilayim means shatnez. So we have that place? Kilayim?
The third paragraph, the third line.
It has to say Mishnah, and it has to say we send. Maybe let me quickly check. Is that it? Yeah.
This is
Okay, it's
regarding
a
Yom
little
Tov?
further down. It's Yom Tov, yes. Here we are. Here, Mishalchin. One may send clothes. Okay, again, Mashalchin kelim, one may send garments, ben tfurim, whether they're sewn, ben shenan tfurim, whether they're not sewn. Va'afal pi sheyesh bahen kilayim, even if there is shatnez, it's isur, you can't really wear it. Vehen litzorech hamoed. As long as it's tzorech hamoed. Gemara is going to explain how could I use something which has kilayim. Gemara is going to ask a question. Okay, I understand. If you're sending me just fabric that's not sewn, Gemara says I could spread it on my tapchan, on my couch, and use it that way. But kalayim, why does it say that even shatnez? I can't sit down there. Gemara is going to bring down that if you have shatnez on the couch, you can't sit on it. What could be the problem?
Because you're deriving a benefit.
Because you're only not allowed to wear it. What could be the problem? Let's say I just spread it.
But you're deriving benefit from
If
it.
you cover yourself in it.
Maybe you'll cover yourself. It's a drabanan. Maybe you'll cover. Yeah, that's what you want to say, Mike?
What if you're wearing wool while you're sitting on a linen couch?
No, that's not a problem.
Is
That's
that
not.
It's not threaded together.
That's not a problem. But if you have kilayim, shatnez, even if it's just laying and you're sitting on it, it's asur. But we'll see later.
What about a linen belt?
Still separate.
And,
I know,
and
wool
the-
pants.
And wool pants, still not a problem. It's
The
two
Kohen
separate
Gadol-
items.
The Kohen Gadol wore Shabbos, right?
Yeah.
So what if you're gifting those like begotten to him or something?
Can't.
Then, no, Kohen Gadol is who is allowed in Bet HaMikdash to
No,
wear
you
that.
can't gift the Kohen Gadol garments.
Why not?
Aren't they from the like the Leviim? Don't they make that for them?
What?
Don't the Leviim make it for them?
It says in Mishnah in Yuma that Bet HaMikdash allocated money for Kohen Gadol to buy his garments. If he wanted to add on, he wanted more expensive, muchashuv, he added on from his. They allocated a certain amount. If he added on, he gave from his own.
Just a quick question. I know you mentioned you can't mix linen and wool, right? But sometimes they have two materials, like wool shell, polyester lining, right?
Right.
So what if you had let's say something like that, but the stitching is like polyester? It's not. You have linen, you have wool, but the stitching's polyester. They're independent fabrics. They're stitched by a third fabric that's not
Still, because they're connected.
because they're connected.
Yeah. Gemara continues.
Good question.
Ve'hen l'tzorech moed. Provided that even the shatnez is tzorech hamoed. Tzorech means needed. Moed means Yom Tov. So provided that somehow the person that you're sending it to could use it. Aval lo sandal hamesumar, but you can't send a sandal that has spurs in it. We're going to see about that. Velo minal shein
They
tefut.
use it to work the ground. Is that what it is?
There was sandals that had actually
Spikes in it.
spikes out on the
What,
bottom.
for
It's
the
like
ground?
planting, right? It's for like planting or something?
No,
Oh.
wasn't that part.
For
It's
massage?
not. It's not really.
Massage shoes?
No,
You walk into his back.
they were real. There were real nails sticking out. You
What's the
couldn't
point
walk
of
on the people there.
What's the point of it?
There was a minhag. There was a article of clothing. Today, soccer people, soccer.
Cleats. Yeah.
They have these shoes, right?
It's for good
So
grip.
believe it or not, in those days, regular people wore that.
Ah, I see.
Why did they wear it?
They don't have
Maybe
big
they
roads.
felt it was for traction. It was good.
Exactly. Yeah, you live in a hill somewhere muddy and you have to get up there.
Yeah.
How else are you gonna walk?
Makes sense.
Dirt
There's no
everywhere,
rubber.
hiking.
They had
all day,
leather,
everything.
you know,
That's the
shoes.
No, I
They
get
use
it.
leather and fabric. So yeah, cleats make a lot of sense. How else are you gonna get around?
You know, sometimes we think like, what about the ancients? They were so primitive. Today, if they would look at us, they would think that we are primitive. In the Gemara, you see they had such varieties. They really had items that we don't have today.
Right. Today everything is industrialized, so mass produced. So they find certain things that work mass production, and that produce that, and that's what everyone wears.
Throwaway
Good,
culture
good,
today.
good.
Nothing is repaired. Nothing is made for keeps. It's made to be thrown out after a season.
Thank you. That's a good point. Let's go on.
It's good for business.
Rabbi Yehuda says, "Af lo min al lavan." Rabbi Yehuda says also you can send a white sandal, mepnei shetzorich uman, because it's very skill. It requires a very big skill to do it, and they did not want the person to start fixing it on Yom Tov, doing it on Yom Tov.
A white sandal.
Yeah, there was a white sandal, but you didn't wear it white. You dyed it in black on your own.
And what's the reason why
So-
you can't send a sandal? A sandal?
There's two halachot about sandal. One is sandal with the nails,
With cleats.
with cleats. Those were said you can't, but all other sandalim you could. And Rabbi Yehuda adds on, you can't send a white sandal.
Because it's
Difference
unfinished.
between white and
It wasn't finished. It wasn't finished, and the person who you sent it to, he would be so happy that he got his new sandals, he would finish it on Yom Tov. You're not allowed to. Although you could,
can't wear it white.
you could send fabric. You could send fabric. We're gonna figure out why exactly. Fabric, which is not finished, you could. Even though you can't really do too much sewing on Chol HaMoed, you can only do sewing that is very simple and anybody could do, like sewing a button, sewing a small little tear. But real alterations that requires professional, you're not allowed to do. But nevertheless, we're allowed to send it. Why send it fabrics? Because we don't. I'm not afraid. People had clothing, and we're not afraid that people will go and finish it off and do alterations on Yom Tov.
Sandals.
But sandals, we were afraid. Rabbi Yehuda holds sandals is a problem.
But isn't the white sandal already a finished product? You're just you're dyeing the color. So technically you can use it. You can wear it white. It is finished. By dyeing it, that's already an extra step. So
I like your swear, I like your thinking, but it's not. The question is not: are you
Able to wear.
creating a finished product? Are you doing malacha? You have you say, okay, it's a finished product. I could wear it without it. So therefore, I'm not creating a finished product.
no.
Question is not finished product. Question: are you doing malacha? Dyeing something is a malacha.
No, I'm not saying to dye it is allowed. I'm saying
You could wear it as is, he's saying.
you can give it because it's already a finished product. So the concern of someone dyeing something, you can have that concern always. But just the argument to say you're not allowed to give it because someone might come to dye it and it's an unfinished product, but it isn't because it's already finished. Dye is extra.
No, they're saying, no, because they're saying normally you would wear a black shoe. Therefore, when you give a white shoe, you're afraid that they're going to dye it black.
Basically like this.
Basically, white
Normal
means
people,
unfinished.
unless you really cuckoo, you wouldn't wear white sandals. You could give svara, oh it's a finished product, I could wear it without it. People would dye their sandals before they wear it. We don't want a person to dye it on Yom Tov. So we don't.
Very tempting.
זה הכלל, כל שנאותין בו ביום טוב, this is a general rule. Sheneotin, anything that could give you hana. Neotin comes from the hana. Hana means pleasure or benefit. But Yom Tov, al Yom Tov, mishal chinato, you're allowed to send it. You could send something that you could give you pleasure. And the Rashi explains over here, not only pleasure, but also, design or jewelry or ornament. Decoration. You could send. So there's two types of pleasure. Either you're wearing something, it really warms you up, or you are showing it off, it's decorative. But you're still wearing it, you're still using it, still gives you pleasure on Yom Tov. Let's go on. Gemara. Bishlomat furim. Bishlomat comes from the word shalom, and it means it's good. Bishlomat tifurim. I understand. Shalom means it's peace. I have no problem. I am at peace with you. If you say that you sent tifurim, means sewed fabrics. Chazu, they fit. Lemalbush. What's malbush?
To wear.
Levush is to wear. Levush is clothing. So chazu means they fit. So it fits to wear. She'ein tfurim, even something which is not sewn. Nami chazu. What does nami chazu mean? Also fit. Also fit. Likisui. What's kisui?
For the chair.
To cover. Kisui means to cover either chair or bed or even floor. Kisui means to cover and sit on it. Ela klayim lemay chazu. But klayim, shatnes, lemay, for what chazu? Is it fit? You're not allowed to wear or derive benefit from klayim, from shatnes. You're not going to be able to use it, so why are you able to send it? Why are you sending it if it's not usable for Yom Tov? V'chitei mayen, if you tell me chazu lemeimach tutei, maybe you'll tell me that you could put it under yourself. Under yourself. In other words, like this.
It's a cushion.
On the cushion, I don't know if in article how they explain it, but basically it means that you're going to sit on the floor and you're going to just put it on the floor and you're going to sit on it. It's like a mat. Use it as a mat. It's shatnes, but you're using it on a mat. What's the havamina? What's the logic that you would be allowed to sit on the shatnes mat?
Comfort.
You're not
Connected.
You're not wearing it. The logic to allow shatnes mat, because we are used to, and we understand that only wearing shatnes is prohibited. But when you just putting it down, throwing it down, and standing on it or sitting on it, you're not wearing it. So logically, it should be permissible. So let's say you'll send somebody. That's what Mishnah means.
So you can derive pleasure for shatnez? You could sell it, you could produce it?
Yeah. So that's the thing. Good point. I said earlier, you can't derive pleasure from shatnez. I was wrong. No, I didn't mean. There is a concept that asur hana, for example, on Pesach, we're not allowed to eat chametz, but we're not even allowed to derive pleasure from chametz. What does that mean? To give it to a goy, to give it to a goy, to sell it to a goy, to give it to a dog, give it to a cat. You're not allowed to do it.
It's not allowed to own, right?
No, because it's just a separate isur. Besides for eating, there's also isur of deriving pleasure. Same thing with, for example, basar b'chalav, milk and meat together. If they get cooked together, you're not even allowed to sell it to a goy or give it to a dog. That's why sometimes if a person has a pet, he buys dog food.
A non-Jewish nursing home, they eat non-kosher food. What would you do? Maybe that week you don't own or something.
No, that's a separate. It's a question for Pesach. Sometimes you own the stock.
Stock.
in some kind of company, in Kellogg's
McDonald's.
or in Life Cereal, and therefore they have a lot of comments, or Quaker Oats.
Bitul
So the
b'shir.
question is how to, but it's not bitul because it's all chametz.
No, but your stock is zero. It's not, your value of the stock proportionate to the shares out there is like probably.
Okay, they say different. There's difference, but it's not so much bitul because it's like we said about shatnez, that you have one thread it's still asur, because your part is still there, so it's not like it gets dissolved.
But you don't have any decision in where the thing goes.
That's more likely. It's not considered to be owning because you don't make the decisions unless you own 51%.
Even though you get dividends from that stock.
Yeah.
Even though.
Mm-hmm.
Not the majority.
Not the appreciation, you also get dividends.
Because
From the
technically
Yeah.
you could say you own the buns,
Compared to
or you
what
could say
they
you
get.
own the machinery, not the actual meat.
Guys, let's go. I don't want to get sidetracked. Let's see Gemara. So Gemara says like this. You want to suggest that you could sit on shatnez v'hatanya lo ya'ale alecha. We learned in the Braita, it says in the Torah, lo ya'ale alecha, it should not be on you. Aval ata yachol lehatzio tachtecha, but you're allowed to put under yourself. Aval amru chachamim asur la'asot ken. But chachamim said, even though midaraita, you are allowed to sit on shatnez. It's asur to do it. Shema techroch lo nima al b'saro. Maybe a small little flap piece of the garment will cover you on top. So you may be sitting on the mat, but if that mat goes on top of you, it's going to be like you're wearing it, and therefore it's going to come to you sur deraita. We know that every sur derabanan, prohibition from the Torah, from the Rabbanan, is something which is permissible from the Torah. But Chachomim prohibited because that you shouldn't come to transgression of the Torah. And this is a very good example. You could sit on a shatnez, but because it may cover you because of that eventuality. Now it's asur midrabanan.
So it's a sort to spread it underneath you.
Yeah. Then it goes. Gemara says like this. V'chetema the mafsik midi beini. What do you think the next question of Gemara is? Maybe you will actually separate yourself from the shatnez. What does that mean? Meaning you'll put it on the floor, shatnez garment. On top of it, you'll put kosher garment, and you'll sit on that.
Mm-hmm.
What are you gaining?
No.
It's not gonna flip on you.
Okay.
But it shouldn't flip on you. It might. We'll see later, maybe. But maybe you're gaining that it's not gonna flip on you because what's the whole problem to sit on the shatnez? Then maybe it'll cover you. But if let's say you put a 3 feet by 3 feet, 6 square feet mat shatnez under, and on top of it you put a larger
Okay, so then what do you gain?
larger thing. Am I allowed to lay on the larger thing?
Yeah, but what do you gain from the?
Extra cushion.
Yeah.
It's a little cushioning.
In the little
extra
3 by 3.
cushioning? It's softer.
Oh, maybe it's your full size.
By three is nicer.
It's your full size. Can you do that or not? Says the Gemara. Even then you're not allowed to do it. Gemara says this. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Amar Rabbi Yossi. Amar Rabbi. Mishum. They said in this Chachomim, biggest Chachomim said in the name of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, Mishum Kahala Kaddish de Yerushalayim. And they said it because of the holy congregation in Jerusalem. Afilu eser matzaot, even 10 mattresses, zu al gabe zu, or 10 korpacha, we call this 10 blankets, one on top of another, v'kelayim tachtehen, and shatnez one is under all of them, asur liyishan alehem, one is not allowed to sleep on them.
Because it's the right.
No.
No, that's the Rabbanan.
So,
Because it can cover you?
Mefarshim asks, why not? You have shatnez, then you have 10 blankets on top of it.
But at that point, you're just being ignorant. To put 10 on top and be like, okay, now I can lay down on it. What are you gaining at that point?
I would say this is a very good protection. I will never get to the shatnez.
But what's the point of the shanas there in the first place?
Maybe it's to protect the blankets from getting dirty or damaged. Like a base layer, to take all the grunt.
Yeah. Also, by the way,
There's a
very often
Practical
when we learn Gemara, we don't ask ourselves why would one do this.
Yeah, it's like
We'll look
hypothetical.
We'll
what if.
look at the concept. We'll look at the concept. Okay, and halacha, you have like something like that. Even halacha, you don't have that. Even halacha, when you come to learn Torah, you have to be ready to look at the concept. Ask yourself the concept, because otherwise, why would I do? If you look for relevance in the Gemara, you'll never learn Gemara.
So these things never actually happen. They're just asking just in case.
You'll find, with time, you'll see that the concepts are relevant. The exact case might not be relevant,
Can I just
but
say
then
something?
your
You
concept.
could bring this concept to a different case as
Yeah.
a proof.
No,
Like
like-
bylaws.
That's the sense.
Pretty much, like case law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but, no,
Okay,
it's just
just to.
With the
the whole purpose of the Gemara is to
No, you're
understand what the Torah is saying. So in order to understand completely, you have to look for as many angles as possible.
I think it's more teaching you how to think about different scenarios from a Jewish perspective.
Listen,
It's not
When
about
you hear the answer, I believe you'll see, very soon you'll see an illustration to what we're saying. What do you think could be the answer? It says like this. You put one shadness on the bottom and 10 pieces of, 10 mattresses on top, 10 blankets on top. Not mattresses, I want to take that. Mattresses is going to be tough. Blankets, in those days they didn't have mattresses like we have over here with strings and like that. We're talking about,
Memory foam in the Talmudic times?
no.
You know, only quotes.
There's no foam. But anyway, this was blankets, right? So we're saying case asur. Before Hashem say, because when you sleep, you could turn around in such a way that whatever is under you is going to be on top, whatever is on top is going to be under, and it'll very possible that you will be covered with that bottom one that's all the way on the bottom covered with 10 other pieces. That's what Gemara said. And the way I understand it, what I'm learning from here, is that person should understand that the extent to which he has to be aware of human nature, and how he should not be ignorant and blinded, and see that things could lead to Aveira, and see what the nature is, and how his nature could bring to Aveira. There's an interesting halacha that a person who damages is always obligated to pay. If I, for example, break a vase, if I scratch someone else's car, if I damage, Gemara says that a person is obligated to pay even if he does something out of his volition. In other words, he just like moves his chair back and there was like a vase on the back and he broke it. Gemara goes further to say that even if he's sleeping
He said he's chayav.
and in his sleep he knocked down the vase, someone else's obviously, and they say, why did you break my vase? He has to pay. This question is why?
Negligence.
Responsibility.
So negligent responsibility. When we say, where is his negligence exactly?
In causing the damage.
When he went to sleep, he should have put it away. And he might.
Oh, so very good. So
Somebody else's
a person, in other words, like this, what we're saying over here is that a person. You see how far your responsibility goes.
Right.
It says in the halacha, when he went to sleep, it was there, he's going to be chayav. But if he fell asleep, there was nothing next to him. Someone put it next to him, and he knocked it down. He's not chayav.
Well, obviously he wasn't negligent.
Excellent. Very good. Good thinking. And that teaches us how deep a person has to watch his.
Rabbi,
actions.
can I
So
ask
hold
a
on.
question?
So
Okay,
let's go
one
back
at a
to
time.
Mishnah.
First, Misha.
No, I just have one question. Maybe the Gemara is going to address it, but why does the Mishnah have to say bein kfurin, bein she'enon kfurin? Just say unsewn, not sewn, even on not sewn garments. Why does it have to bring both? Because we would have learned the other one for sure.
Like Chal V'chomer. Mishnah is asking, I'm going to get to your question in a minute. Mishnah is asking, it says in the Mishnah, you could send clothing whether it's sewed or whether it's not sewed.
Right.
Just say, you could send
Unsold.
even unsewed.
Yeah.
And I would know that it's sewed.
For sure, then for sure so.
That's a good question. It's a good question. Let me think about it. A couple more seconds. What?
What's the purpose of sending shatnez? What's the reveal? Why
Oh,
are you
we still didn't give the answer. You're right. We still didn't answer the main question on Mishnah to start. What's the shatnez, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to get an answer.
Okay.
But now you can't use it. So you know what? Let's put your question. You're asking a good question.
Okay.
And since I don't know the answer, let's put it on the
Okay.
side. I'm pleading the fifth. You know? I don't know. I have to still think about
Okay.
it. But it's a good question. So Gemara says, Ella bivilon. We're talking about a curtain.
You read ahead.
That was what I-
We're talking about the curtain.
Okay.
The curtain, which the shatnez that's in the curtain is 100% permissible. But still, not yet. We'll see. Gemara right now wants to say that if I am hanging up a curtain to cover a door, cover a window, it's not a problem. Gemara is going to ask on this. Ura says there is a concept in halachot of tuma and tahara. We know that clothing could become tameh. Clothing could become tameh. How does clothing become tameh? How does garments become tameh? How does material become tameh? If, for example, nida sits on it, nida, a woman who's menstruating sits on it, becomes tameh. Tzara. There are different. A person could give.
Currencies become tameh?
What?
Currencies become tameh?
So we're saying no. There is a question about curtains. Really, curtain. I'll ask you: is curtain a item of bedding, or is it an item of the furniture, or more like a wall? So Poskim said the really curtain should be like a wall. It's a wall because you're hanging it up on the door, hanging it out of the window. It's like a wall, and the walls could not become tameh because wall is part of the house, and wall is something you never sit on. It says in the Gemara, in the Torah, what does the if a nida sits on only on something which is people normally sit on, becomes tameh. You never sit on the wall. Last time I never saw anybody sitting on the wall. So really, the curtain should not be tameh. But they still say that it is tameh because mipnei shamash, because a server, sometimes your sluga, servant, mitchamem kinegdo, he covers himself if he's cold. Period.
With the curtain?
With the curtain. So you see that since sometimes curtain could act as clothing, it's tameh. Okay. Ella bikashin. So we still have to understand where is shatnez usable. And Gemara says bikashin. We're talking about kashin. What's kashin? Kashin is felt. What's felt? Do you know that the hat, the black hat that I have?
Stuffing. It's insulation.
It's insulation, but really there is a different usage.
Yeah.
Felt, like for example, that black hat that I have, which material is it made from?
Rabbit fur. Felt. It's felt, man.
It's felt, but how did they take
Primal
it?
what black hat? Like yeshiva
The
hat?
one that I have.
A regular yeshiva hat.
Yes.
Wool, there's wool.
Polyester.
So it's a funny. It's a pretty hard material.
Uh-huh.
It's basically a horse's hair that's pressed together.
Mhm.
That's felt. They discover. Even sometimes there's some people, bearded Jews and non-Jews. Sometimes they don't brush their beard. The beard goes very big. Sometimes you see that it's sticking together. It becomes like a stick. It's not pleasant to see. People don't take care of themselves. But hair has a characteristic that it could merge and it could
Lock.
infuse.
Locks.
Locks in?
It becomes like a lock of hair.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
Dreadlocks.
So they used to utilize the horse's hair, and they would make mats from felt like that, and they would be hard. It wouldn't be even like my hat that is a little bit floppy, but it would be like a hard mat. And if you took shatnez, wool by the way is also hair. Is lamb's hair. So you could actually make a very, very, very hard wool felt material. Well, let's say you added some fiber of flax into it, and now it's shatnez. You have a shatnez, but it does not fold because it's hard. Does not fold, and therefore this you could sleep on.
Okay.
Because this you will not fold over yourself.
Oh, I see.
The Amar Rav Huna Brei the Rav Yeshua Hai Nimta Gamdat de Nagrasha. Rav Huna said that this. How do they translate in Art Scroll? Felt. How do they? What was that line? Rav Huna Brei the Rav Yeshua said. Hai Namta Gamda de Narash. Narash is the name of place, Narash. Find the place where it says Narash. Narash. What are the two words before Narash?
Heartfelt.
Oh, I was right. All right.
Yeah.
Heartfelt.
Heartfelt?
No, heartfelt.
Okay. Shari. It's mutar to sit on it or to sleep on it. Why? Because it's not full.
Shari means permissible?
Permissible, yeah.
Shari in Aramaic?
Right. Now, some would learn, and here we stop. Let me just check the time. No, stop.
8:40.
8:40. So we're gonna stop in literally 4 minutes. Some say that the reason why felt is not a problem because it's not because it's hard, because it does not warm. It does not warm you up.
It's not a good insulator. It doesn't keep the.
Maybe because it doesn't envelop you. Because hard just means that it lays flat. It's very hard to really. In order to be warm, you need to envelop yourself, cover
It's not
yourself,
really clothing.
and insulate yourself.
Right.
And from here we're learning another halacha, that when it comes to shatnez, it's only prohibited when you actually, it's prohibited to wear it, but it has to, one of the conditions is that it has to warm you. You're wearing it for warmth, for clothing. And therefore, if there's a situation where you're not wearing it for clothing, it's not a problem to wear shatnez. What is the question? And Gemara says in different place.
What about shoes? Like the sole of your foot?
Shoes you're also wearing for warmth.
Yeah.
What about sitting on a chair that's shatnez? Let's say your car seat is made of shatnez.
It's also a problem because it's also warms you up.
Really?
Ah.
But they say that if you are, but they say that if you are, you are allowed to wear shatnez to show off clothing to the potential buyers. Let's say I'm a mannequin, right? I am putting on this suit, and I'm standing in the window, right? And everyone is looking at I'm showing off even if it's shatnez, I'm allowed to do it. Why? Because I'm wearing it not as an item of clothing. It may be warming me. So there's a question of, but what if I'm deriving warmth, but that's not my prime reason why I'm doing it. I'm getting it de facto as a default. So they say that something which, it's called psik reisha. It's like on Shabbat, I want to give my child a toy to play. I take a chicken, I cut off its head, and I give the head to my child. So Gemara says, it's very nice. You only want to provide your child with a toy, but in the process, you're killing an animal.
It's not your intention to kill the animal.
So Gemara says that since the animal will always die if you cut off its head, then that's prohibited, even if your intention is not for that. But for some reason, Gemara says, I have to check up exact reason, that when it comes to clothing, you are allowed to actually wear it to show it off, provided that you don't actually, inside your head, deep inside your intention is not to also derive warmth.
So if you wear it to a business meeting to show off, to gain different contacts, if you're going to, for example, a certain place and you want to wear a nice suit and it's shatnez, but you're not wearing it for warmth, you're wearing it to show that your status, so people will connect.
It's not good. It's not good. It's only that there is a overt, in other words, clear intention for non-clothing. When you are showing it off as in the store,
If you're a model or something.
you are modeling it. So then we say it's fine.
Because
But
if
if-
you display at him, it's not how he's gonna wear it.
You gotta get to
How
the
about
business meeting, you gotta
shatnez?
drive back,
Rabbi,
so you're in
so
the
there's
suit all
no
day.
problem producing shatnez in a factory. I own a factory. I make sharpness. I make wool and linen.
You can't derive
That's not
benefit.
a problem.
Rabbi said earlier.
No, but now we're talking about warmth and wearing.
It's not wrong, only wearing is.
Oh, so deriving benefit is not an issue for me.
No.
But then when we
Selling
sell
it.
it's not a problem.
Oh.
Okay, Chazak, I want to thank you for coming.
Yeah,
And
you
listen,
can introduce
be
it
well.
with sharpness pants, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it could be a problem if you sell it. Let's say, whatever, you're putting some.
Let's take a bracha. Please answer amen to this bracha. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei nefashot rabot v'kasanan, al kol ma shvarta l'chayim v'mashkol chayim v'chayim.
Amen.